And it does sound like Miss Rosen has kept some records on what has been going on.
Well, I'm not sure how she came up with her records, or if she's making stuff up previous to that.
Amy Marlott versus Robert Marlott. Sure, this is your objection to a child support recommendation. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And what are your objections?
Well, in the first hearing, I had no knowledge of friend of the court or how it worked, so I just kind of didn't argue anything at that first hearing, not knowing what the consequences could be. So, on a typical week, he goes to school in Gaylord. I live in Atlanta. On a typical week, I have him Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was presented in the previous hearing that Amy has him 2/3 of the time, which would be 66%, but 3 days out of 7 is 57%. Our agreement when we divorced was always 50-50 custody, 50-50 time with him. Because she moved him to school in Gaylord, of course, that makes it difficult for me. So, in order to make up for time lost during the school year, he's supposed to be at my house more in summer. So that's how we deal with trying to make it a 50-50 time split. So
All right.
the 2/3 is incorrect, basically.
So you have him you have 3 days every week during the school year?
Yes, I might add, generally I drive 180 miles because I have to make 3 trips to Gaylord. He usually has a practice of some sort, whether it's baseball, basketball, one of the days.
Okay. And how was this last summer handled as far as parenting time?
Well, it was made a little bit difficult by Amy because when he wasn't having a practice or something, it seemed like something would always come up, like the school was offering a weightlifting class 3 days a week. So he goes there for like 20 minutes, and kind of like she was requiring me to drive him over there for a 20-30 minute
All right, so my
workout.
question was, how many overnights do you think you got last summer?
Um, well, whenever it worked out, he was at my house more during the week. Yes.
I don't know what that is. So how many nights, how often do you think he was at your house over the summer?
Well, usually 2 or 3 weeks, so that'd be, well, actually a little more. It'd probably be closer to 4 during the summer. There were weekends where he would have a baseball tournament or something, and she always took him to those. But I think you
All right.
could safely say, um, so 3-4 times a month, 12. Um, well, if we're calling the summer June, July, August, I would say like 45 to 50 days.
All right. Ms. Rosen, what are your thoughts on what the schedule looks like as far as overnights?
So of the 365 days in the year, and forecasting the remainder of this year, which we have a couple weeks left, Bob has had and will get to 120 overnights of the 365. As far as the summer, June, July, and August, in June, he had him overnight 3 times. In July, he had him overnight 16. And then in August, he had him overnight 12.
What's currently happening on a weekly schedule? He indicates he has 3 overnights a week during the school year. Is that what you guys are doing?
So what changes are Donald's athletics. And so when he has weekend tournaments, whether it be basketball or baseball, I have been the parent that is taking him to the tournaments and handling those arrangements. So that affects the weekends. For October and November, I would say pretty consistently, because he didn't have any weekend events, he was at Bob's the 3 nights that Bob mentioned. But it changes a lot. January of last year, Bob had him 5 overnights. January and February, Donald will probably have tournaments every weekend. And so that's where things get affected. I have the numbers for the full year if you want me to run through them.
Well, you indicate that it's about at 120 for this year. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Mr. Marlott, anything else you wish to say as far as the overnights are concerned?
Well, I do. These tournaments she mentions, I'm never given a schedule, offered to take him myself. This is where we run into trouble. She just takes him, and then, she has no problem infringing on what I would consider my time. So moving forward, I'm going to make sure it's 50%. And if it isn't, then we will take some action on that.
What does your
But
custody agreement say, if you know, sir?
50-50, everything.
Well, what does your parenting time arrangement say?
Everything was 50-50 when we divorced.
All right, so I'm looking at a judgment of divorce. Have you guys ever altered the terms as far as the judgment of divorce when it comes to custody?
No.
All right, so I do see, I guess in that it indicated parenting time is as the parties agree. And then back here, looks like in September, we also indicated that parenting time is as the parties agree. So the difficulty when that's the language is there's nothing specific, which is kind of why we discussed going with that 2/3 last time we were here, as far as the overnights were concerned. In the
Right.
judgment itself doesn't say, it says you gotta have joint custody, but joint custody doesn't always mean necessarily 100% 50-50 as far as overnights. It did indicate on the judgment to go with at 182.5, but then we altered that in September. So when there's not a specific schedule, the court has to look at what is the calculation of what has been going on. And it does sound like Ms. Rosen has kept some records on what has been going on. And I know when we were here before, we kind of went with that figure.
Well, I'm not sure how she came up with her records, but I have kept a record. Well, since I realized we were going to do this, I have the last 3 months. And it backs up what I'm saying, that I have him more than the 2/3. It actually ends up being, if you just kind of went with the 3 days out of 7, it kind of averages out that's what it is on my schedule. That is from when we started this in September through the end of the year, based on what has been planned for the holiday.
And then she had said that for summer you had about 31 overnights. You thought about 45. Did you have anything that shows the number of overnights you had in the summer?
I don't have anything written down. I wasn't planning on doing this, so I really only started from the time when we started this proceeding. So if she's making stuff up previous to that, I can't speak to that. But
and then as to the issue, what would you like to say on that?
Which issue?
The income. You also objected based on an income issue. Is that correct?
Yeah, I do object to that because I know that she has had a job at a restaurant in Boyne City within the past 3 years, which they took my income and basically divided it by 3 over those 3 years. And what I was told by the FOC lady, or the caseworker, I guess you'd call her, she said that it was her understanding that Amy had quit the job, and so that they didn't include that income in her numbers because they wanted it to be accurate. Well, I was a sole proprietor in my business, and now I'm an LLC acting as an S corp, so I receive a paycheck weekly. So there's no debating what I'm bringing home per week. And if you were to just take my numbers, I don't know if you have that sheet. I put the numbers on there. So it seemed like gross income is what they were wanting to look at. She came up with 8520.37 for my gross, but my weekly is 1762.11, which if you were to divide that out, a normal 4-week 4-pay month, it turns out to be 7,048. Or if you were to average the whole year, you're about 76. So it's about $1,000 difference from what she was calculating. Which,
when did you make that change in your employment?
October 1st was the start. of it.
All right. Do you receive any other benefits other than the weekly paycheck?
No, that's my income right there.
So if the company makes a profit, that's not your company?
It is my company, yes.
All right. So if there's a profit, do you then get some other benefit at the end of the year, or where does any profit go?
Well, for now, it goes into the business that it's relatively new. So I'm not sure how all that will be handled in the future. I also have something I didn't find out about until Saturday was the insurance calculation, which is also incorrect.
All right. What's incorrect about the insurance calculation?
Well, I was looking into getting because I haven't even had health insurance the last couple of years. So I was looking into getting my own policy, which I did, and I was just in conversation with the insurance agent. I told her about this situation where they want me to pay 65% of Donald's health care. So I gave her the number. They listed 982 as their monthly what they pay per month. And then when they calculated Donald's portion of it, they just divided it by three, which came out to 327, and then took 65% of that, which is 213. And the insurance agent said, no way that you could insure, that it costs the same to insure a 13-year-old kid who's healthy, the same rate at, 50-year-old adults. So I don't believe that's accurate. However, she told me she took it off of the taxes. I don't know what she looked at, but what I would like to propose is I would like to just put him on my policy and I'll pay for all of his health insurance.
All right. Anything else you'd like to say?
Only that, again, I would make that offer just to pay for all of his health insurance and they wouldn't have to contribute anything. The only caveat is I have to claim him on my taxes. And I would be willing to split the childcare credit with Amy. We've been alternating years that we claim him. Like this coming tax season, she will be claiming him. So next year is my year to claim him. But moving forward, if I can just put him on my insurance policy and claim him on my taxes, I'm happy to split whatever the child care. I think it's about $2,000. So I would split that with her.
Ms. Rosen?
Yeah. First, I'd like to go back to the overnights. Bob is painting me in a picture as if I'm dictating Donald's extra. Pardon?
We don't need to go back to the overnights. So I give you both a chance to make your arguments there. So let's go to the income issue. He indicated that you have some income that was not included. What would you like to say regarding that?
Yeah, I'm not employed at by Magnum Hospitality or Cafe Sante. I haven't been for approximately 7 months, and I work full time at Bliss Salon and Spa 5 to 6 days a week. When I started at Bliss, I did take that job because I didn't have. I did take the Cafe Sante job in order to help supplement my income. I'm now full time at Bliss, and so it just didn't make sense for me to continue driving to Boyne. So I don't work there.
Okay. And then as to healthcare, what would you like to say regarding that?
I think it's a bigger conversation. I would like to know what type of insurance that he's proposing, what the policy entails, what the deductible is, what the copays are, all those things. We've carried health insurance on Donald for 5 years. And so, it's just a surprise to me that here today, Bob wants to now carry health insurance on Donald. Also we dental on Donald. So I'm curious if Bob is proposing dental as well. I did submit all the documents with regard to our health insurance to friend of the court. And so they have all the numbers.
Do you know if that breaks down individually what each's premium is, or is it just shows what the total is for all the people on the policy?
I'm sure that it breaks down individually. I would have to get that breakdown.
Okay. Friend of the court, anything you'd like to say regarding these matters?
Just that we had taken the information about insurance directly from her tax information she provided to us.
Okay.
That is included in the folder up there, so I do feel that it is probably accurate.
You think it costs the same to insure a 13-year-old kid as a 50-year-old adult?
All right, so I'm not sure where your question is directed, but we'll take a look at to see if we have a breakdown that is separate. I'll let front of the court do that after we are done with the hearing. All right, anything else you want to say, sir?
Just on the insurance thing again, like, I'm not sure why she would worry about, like, what I'm offering is to pay for all of it. I'm not asking her to pay 35% or any of it. So I don't really know what it matters what the copay is, because that would be my responsibility.
All right, so heard from both parties on the objection. The first is the overnights. I am going to deny a change in overnights. We were at a prior hearing where there was discussion to go with about 2/3. Testimony from Mr. Marlott is recently he's been getting typically 3 overnights a week during the school year. But there have been weekends where he doesn't get his overnights and mom takes the child to some type of events. The summer, really, I find Mr. Marlott's testimony more of a guess and is vague as to how many overnights he actually had in the summer. Ms. Rosen indicated she had kept track, and he was on pace for that 120, which we had calculated previously. So without additional proof, I am going to deny the objection as to the overnights and keep the overnights at the calculated 120.5. Again, as indicated, when the order simply says parenting time as the parties agree, then it does make it more difficult to get overnights. The party has a right to seek a specific parenting time schedule, which then makes the overnight calculation certainly much easier. As to the income, based on the statements of Ms. Rosen of not working that job anymore and maintaining full-time employment, I would not add that to her support amount. Mr. Marlott has indicated he has changed the way the business is operated now, changing from a sole proprietor to an LLC operating as an S Corp, and he's getting a paycheck. This is a new arrangement, and certainly there are potential other income that could be calculated if that is his corporation, which it appears it is. So there may be other benefits received, and that is a new corporation. So as he indicated, he's not sure ultimately what all those tax benefits and revenue are going to look like, as he has not gone through that cycle yet with the new way the business is organized. So given that that is a new matter with some inconsistency at this point, I would also deny the objection as to the income issue. I think after next year, with a full year acting as the S Corp and the LLC, we would have a very clear picture of what his income looked like for in the year of 2025. And if there is a change, he would certainly be eligible at that time to file a motion for a support review if the new structure of the company shows a change in his income that was calculated for this particular review. As to the insurance, I will have friend of the court review their file and see if they can get a breakdown of the specific premium for the child in this case. And if it's not there in the paperwork that's already there, then I would indicate that Ms. Rosen needs to provide that information to the court upon the caseworker notifying her that it's not in the paperwork that they already have. And then we can do a new calculation based on that change in insurance if there is a change. As far as future insurance, and I can't make a decision today, and I don't think I could put Ms. Rosen on the spot, but certainly it would make sense for the parties to have that discussion and for Mr. Marlott to present to her what the co-pays and premiums and everything looks like for whatever policy he's able to have. And then hopefully if that is a better policy, the parties would make a sensible decision and change that. And if that change happened, we would also put that into a different calculation. The parties do have the right to file an objection to my recommended decision within 21 days. The matter would be heard before the judge, but we will look at making those particular changes. Any questions from front of the court?
No, sir.
All right.
Oh, can I ask a question before we dismiss?
Sure.
I'm just at this point that the request was made in July and then we had our first hearing in September. At what point, is there any type of, like, he has any obligation to provide some support as I'm managing all?
Provided you some in September.
All right, so I'm gonna cut you both off because I'm not gonna have everybody arguing back and forth. I've made my recommendation. There is an effective date on the child support calculation, but it is not an official order at this particular moment. It will be, looks like it does get backdated. An effective date of September 18th. I'm not sure what was in place before then. Once it goes into place, if he doesn't have credit, he'll have a very large arrears to deal with. But unfortunately, with objections, we do run into this process where things get delayed before becoming a final order. All right, thank you both for appearing. You are free to sign off.